Hello and welcome back to Redirecting. Now, there was a meme that I shared on Facebook that simply says, "She'll submit naturally if you lead properly." Then it says hashtag class dismissed. Now, again, I shared this meme and Sister Katrina requested that I do a video on this subject. And although this wasn't my original thought, it came from someone else, I simply shared it. It is absolutely something that I agree with and is in alignment with things that I have spoken on in the past. And so I absolutely want to discuss this particular meme. Okay. Now, Sister Katrina's statement, she says, "Say that I will be waiting on the next video on your statement." Also add in what Brother Palia said, bring it out, okay? And so his statement was, submission don't look like what most think. It's simply recognizing and receiving the spirit of Yahuwah as he set forth. These brews want slaves. This is what Brother Palia said. They want slaves. And my response was, it amazes me how many brothers overlook the fact that they too must submit to Hamashiach, but their main focus is getting their wives or other people's wives to fear them, as in the Ike Turner meme. And that comes because I put up a post a few days ago. And it was an Ike Turner meme put up in response. And the person, the brother who put it up, he said, "I told you, I'm going to say this nice to you," or something like that. Let me just look it up. I want to say what it says exactly. But anyway, you know how Ike Turner is. You know what his history is with Tina Turner. And let me just look this up really quick because I don't have the post in front of me. But he had a very, very violent past with Tina Turner. And that was very well documented. Okay. In the meme, he was sitting in front of her as if he was going to shove a piece of cake in her face. Okay. Okay, I asked you nicely. One moment. Okay, he says, "Come on now, I'm asking you nicely." If I remember, I'll try to put that meme up. But that was a meme that was put up in response to a post that I did. And so the brother who put it up, he's married. He knows that I'm married. But what we're getting a lot of in this walk are men who do not mind disrespecting another man's wife. Especially if they feel like she said something or posted something that they don't agree with. That's just the way it is. And mind you, they come on your post to give you these soft-hearted threats or make statements. I shared this post about submitting because I wanted it to be understood why some men are having problems with submission. And I want the women to understand how important it is to submit. But there has to be a fair balance in all of this. But when you have men who are not submitting to the Most High, but they want you to submit to everything they're doing, that creates friction in the relationship. And some men think you're supposed to take whatever they do, regardless to whatever it is, and just do it. Okay? But the scripture also tells the husbands, provoke not your wives. You see, but the post stating that she will submit naturally if you lead properly, that is 100% true. Most women don't have a problem submitting to a righteous man who is leading properly. And what does that look like when a man leads properly? That means that he is submitting to his head, Hamashiach. It doesn't mean that he's docile. It doesn't mean that he's a simp. It doesn't mean that his wife wears the pants or that she's controlling and running things. It means that he is holding his own as a man, that wife respects that authority, but the way in which he use that authority is in a righteous way. He's leading properly. His wife is not afraid of him. She's not sitting off in the corner somewhere like she's in fear, like she can't wait for him to leave the building. A wife should not be afraid of her husband. She should not look like she's in fear and like she don't have a word to say or she cannot speak unless spoken to. A wife should not feel like her voice has been silenced based on a couple of passages of scripture. Now, over the years, I've heard that same scripture thrown so many times like a frisbee from people who lack understanding. And I'm talking about men and women, but mostly men. Whenever you ask them, where does it state this in the law, that a woman can't speak, teach, or do anything, they can never refer you to the Torah because it's not in the Torah. But respect and honor for husbands and likewise for wives, that is in the Torah. It's a mutual respect, a mutual love. But when you have this one-sided view that only the wife is supposed to have respect and honor and love for the husband, but not going in the other direction, this is why you have problems and issues within a marriage. Now, I already know that some people will only listen to segments of this video. They won't listen to the whole thing, and they will think that I'm saying that a woman doesn't have to submit to her husband if he's not 100% whatever. And I'm in no way saying that at all. I'm just telling you, if you want a smooth sailing situation in your home, lead properly. Most women will submit naturally. They won't question a man if he's leading naturally. Let me give you some examples. If he's leading properly, should I say. But that woman will submit naturally if that man is living righteously. But if you have a man, let me just give you some examples here. If there is a man who plays video games all day long, he's not working a job, he's not doing anything around the house, but he got that, hey, Eddie Mae, bring me my plate, girl. He got that type of spirit and attitude. Eventually, that woman is going to be provoked and she will not submit naturally because at some point she's going to get tired of bringing home the bacon while he sits up on his behind. Eddie Mae is going to get tired of taking care of everything within the household while he plays video games or watch movies all day. Or, get this, she brings home the check, he says, give me the money, and he goes out the door and does whatever he wants with the money she's earned. Now, I want y'all to be honest with me, men and women. Who expects a woman to submit to a man like that? Now, I'm saying she found herself in the situation. She didn't know any better at first because I know I will have those that say, well, she should have never married him. Okay, I'll give you that. But now that she's in this situation, who honestly thinks that this type of situation or marriage could last for any length of time? Now, there are marriages that have lasted only because the wife chose to stay in misery. But who thinks that that's fair? I want to know who thinks it's fair that he could stay home, no job, no hopes of a job, not even looking for one, playing video games, asking her for the check, watching TV, eating all day, and expects her to submit to him. So these are the things that we're talking about. When the scripture talks about a wife submitting to her husband, we're talking about based on righteousness. Another example I gave in the post was the Bonnie and Clyde scenario. Some men expect a woman to submit to them regardless to what he does and what he says and how he lives. They expect it, period. No questions asked. So my thing is this. We're looking at the Bonnie and Clyde scenario. He wants to be a crook and a criminal. Do she go along with that? Should she remain a ride or die wife? That is the question that I have for those who think that a woman is supposed to submit to foolishness. Because this post is talking about a woman submitting naturally, meaning it's going to be first nature, second nature. It's going to be in her mind and in her actions to submit naturally to a man who leads properly. Meaning she ain't got to go through all this other stuff, because all that other stuff, it actually provokes the wife. But see, nobody wants to talk about that. Among the Hebrew Israelite community, there is much talk about what a woman is supposed to be doing. A lot of talk about that. But what the man is supposed to be doing and submitting to his head, we don't hear a whole lot of talk about that at all. Not a whole lot of talk at all. And that's what I find interesting. That's why a lot of people are abandoning this awakening. They are abandoning this awakening because for women, they find it to be too abusive. For some, they find that the doctrines that are going all over the place. What we are finding among Hebrew Israelites is that a lot of men deal with their wives very harshly, in which the Bible clearly speaks against that, but these women are still commanded by their husbands to just take it, grin and bear it. It's like there is no checks and balance system in place because, and when I say that, no, I'm talking about in general, most of the talk that we hear is that the woman is to submit and do whatever the husband says, right? But we are not hearing enough of our teachers and men who are telling the men what they should be doing. We're not hearing enough of that. And so it is causing a strong division among our men and our women. And a lot of women are becoming rebellious. Now, that's not the only reason. That's not the only reason at all. I don't want you to think that I'm saying that is the only reason, because some women were bred in such a way, or should I say raised in such a way to where they're rebellious just from what they've heard and how they've been raised and things they've seen. And there was no one in the household to teach them and to guide them in the way that they should go. But you do have women who have become rebellious because of situations they found themselves in. It could have been an abusive situation. It could have been a situation where the husband is not handling his business and not submitting to the Most High, getting drunk and doing drugs or whatever the case may be. And this is why we all need to slow down, men and women, when it comes to choosing a spouse, so that you don't find yourself in a situation where you have to make such choices. The time to make the choice is before you say, I do. Because if you get into a situation where you're married to someone and your whole life is structured around and built around this person, and it turns out they were Mr. Wrong, then you've got to take some of the blame for that, because the scripture clearly says, whom Yah have joined together, let no man put asunder. So if there's a case where Yah joins people, it's obviously saying that there are cases where he has not joined people. So if you jump into a situation that wasn't meant to be, you're going to experience some type of problem as a result of it, or problems. But this subject is one of those that I think is very important that we understand from both sides, because when you have someone expecting total submission and they're not submitting to their head, you got to understand why your wife is having a difficult time submitting. You've got to understand. I mean, who wants to submit to somebody who's not handling their business? Now, if you're a wife, let me just say this real quick. If you are a woman and your husband is handling his business, but he's not doing things quite the way you like, and you don't submit, then you are in error. Everything does not have to go our way as women, especially if it's a situation that's not something so very dire or important. If it's not something that is super important, then you need to stay in your own lane. Because There are cases or situations, should I say, where a woman steps out of her lane, challenges a man's authority, and she starts to get a different man out of him. If you're not trying to get things to go in the wrong direction, stay in your own lane. Because men have a nature. Now, not every man is the same, and not every woman is the same. But men have a nature, and their nature is very strong. And they have things that they want, and they have certain things about them. How can I even explain this? There are certain attributes about a man where they're like, hey, this is how things are going to be. Now, if it is not something unrighteous and unreasonable, then as a wife, if it's just is super important, you can say, hey, let's reason together. A good example, what type of vehicle are we going to get? But something where that man is making a decision, that's his decision, stay in your own lane. But if it's something based on a vehicle and the husband wants to get a Ferrari and you're like, well, look, we got 5 kids. That ain't going to be good for us. Do you think we should get maybe a SUV or something? Now, that's one of those situations where I can see a wife saying, okay, look, we got to reason together because that Ferrari it's just not going to be good for the family. I can see a woman basically saying, look, we need to talk about this, baby. But if it's something that is not that important and you just have this way about you because you think that you should get your way, then you become in error. I've talked many times, my husband and I have talked many times about me wanting to paint our house a certain color. Situations like that, he was able to see where I was coming from because we're talking about paint. We're not talking about adding an addition to the house or something like that. But he said, you know what? As a matter of fact, he said, the Most High told him, let that woman paint the house what color she wants because that wasn't a big deal because I'm the one who initially wanted to paint the wall, right? And so I said, I think I want to paint it this color. And he just shut it down right away, even though I was doing the decorating. And so we learned how to have a fair balance. Okay, we're talking about painting the wall and decorating the room. I'm going to let my wife decorate the room. That's the conclusion my husband came to. But when when we're talking about something else more heavy duty and he's saying it should be done this way and he's doing the work, like adding an addition or something like that, hey, you know what you're doing. Handle your business. I'm going to stay in my own lane. That's how it works. Women, you have a lane to stay in. Now, a husband can, if he wants, he can say, well, look, I don't want the wall to be painted that color. He can. But in the case of something like that, my husband said that the Most High spoke to him and told him to let me paint the color I wanted because it wasn't that big a deal. And you literally have some men who want to control every single aspect of your life. How you wear your hair, what color dress you wear, what you cook for dinner today. Can you run? Can you walk, sit down, do this, do that? I mean, everything to the point where some women are actually afraid of their husbands. That is such a stressful situation if you have to be afraid of your husband. But if that man is leading properly, you can talk to him. You can say, well, look, baby, can we talk about this? Can we talk about that new 60-inch television? Do we really need, because we got a 55-inch and we really can't afford it. So can we reason together? If you can't have a conversation and explain to this man that you got bills that are due and that our TV is already working fine, it's already 55 inches and you want a 60-inch. If you can't talk to that man and reason with him on something like that, then that can create a huge problem within the marriage and the household. So again, it goes back to the whole idea of a man leads properly. Now, a man who's leading properly is not going to squander bill money on a 60-inch TV, knowing that the family needs lights or gas or water or whatever. I truly believe that the majority of women wouldn't have a problem submitting to a man who leads properly. But the big question comes with what is leading properly? Because we obviously do have problems and issues with submission. But because we have these problems, it is my belief that both the man and the woman needs to examine themselves. If your wife is not submitting to you, ask yourself why. If you're not submitting to your husband, why aren't you submitting? If you all could sit down and talk to each other, reasonably, you can come up with that answer. Is that man submitting to the Most High? Is he submitting to the will of the Most High? Is he submitting to the word of the Most High? Those are the questions that need to be asked. Who is doing what they're supposed to be doing and who is not? Now, the scripture, 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 1 and 2, it says, likewise, ye wives, be in subjection to your own husbands, that if any obey not the word, they also may without the word be won by the conversation of their wives, while they behold your chaste conversation coupled with fear. Now, if that man is not obeying the word, he's going to have some problems. He is going to have some problems. So this is why that man has to obey the word, and that woman has to follow his lead. When he is obeying the word, she will follow. Now, if you went after beauty over brains, then that's something you're going to have to deal with, brothers, because sometimes a brother will marry someone because they're beautiful, not because she loves the Most High or because she's living for him and all of this, but, oh, she is so beautiful. But the woman is not submissive. Before you even got married to her, she wasn't submissive. She had a haughtiness about her before you said I do, but you took the plunge anyway because you chose beauty over brains and humility. So in both directions, if you are a man who chooses someone as your wife for the wrong reasons, then you get what you've selected. Likewise, if you are a woman who married someone and you knew that there was good evidence that he was not in submission to the Most High, that he wasn't living for the Most High, he didn't love him, he had these brutish ways about him, but you said I do anyway, then you get what you got. So in both directions, there is work to do. I'm pretty sure there's plenty more I can say on this subject. I just wanted to cover this at the request of Sister Katrina, because it is a post that has taken wings on Facebook, many different perspectives. Of course, you have a lot of men who have all these things to say about the woman, but nothing about the men. And so this is another thing. The contentions that we see on Facebook is just pretty indicative of what is going on out here in the world. That we can't reason together, because even on a simple post that's as cut and dry as this one, people can't just talk nicely and reason with one another. I'm going to read this last statement by one of the brothers who responded just moments ago. It says, "This is the saddest thing I've ever seen. A person cannot post a simple, straight to the point idea, and it gets turned into a thread of contention." Okay, he had a lot more that he said here, but that is absolutely right. A simple, straightforward idea turns into a thread of contention because our people are not looking at what they are supposed to be doing. They're always looking at what the other is supposed to be doing. The women are always thinking about what the men are supposed to be doing, and the men are most certainly always thinking about what the women are supposed to be doing. But again, going back to the beginning, she will submit naturally if you lead properly. Class dismissed. Be sure to ring the bell to be notified of new uploads on this channel, and also comment, share, like, and subscribe.